Good afternoon. My name is Edward Sanshin Oberholtzer. I'm the resident priest here at the Joseph Priestley Zen Sangha. We're an affiliate of Empty Moon Zen. For practice outside words and texts, Zen is filled with stories. We all have our favorites. One of mine is set out by David Chadwick in Crooked Cucumber, his biography of Shunryu Suzuki, the founder of the San Francisco Zen Center. It seems that one day, during the question-answer period after a Dharma talk, Chadwick decided that he wanted to provoke Suzuki into beating him with a stick. Now, I suppose you have to practice Zen for a while to understand the appeal in that. Trust me, it does exist. Anyway, Chadwick raised his hand and asked if Suzuki could summarize Buddhism in one sentence. Instead of the beating he anticipated, he found that Suzuki, after a brief pause, simply responded, "Everything changes." Not simply one sentence, 2 words. Ah yes, brevity is the soul of wit, but what I particularly like about Suzuki's answer is that it is as good a representation as I can come up with for the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy always increases. An ordered world becomes chaotic. Things fall apart. The center does not hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. Roll an egg off the kitchen counter and it smashes on the kitchen floor. A splattered egg does not reassemble and hop back up onto the counter. Everything changes. And some say that's where the arrow of time comes in. And you know, Buddhism isn't the only religion that finds echoes in the world around us. The Renaissance essayist Montaigne laid out the Christian road to salvation, a map set out both in what he called the book of nature and in the scriptures. Since God created all things, one need only look to the natural world to see his divine message. The scriptures are, in a way, a mere add-on, a revelation after the fact of creation. The book of nature has its own alphabet. The animals, the plants, all of natural phenomena can be assembled into words, phrases, sentences, whole texts. Sadly, and of course there has to be a sadly, since man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, we can no longer read the book of nature and must rely solely on the scriptures. We are fallen, tainted by original sin, and hence unable to see or read God's word in the world around us. Now, in an interesting, if not quite parallel world, Buddhism has Dharma with a small d and Dharma with a capital D. Dharma with a capital D, scriptures, is, of course, the teachings of the Buddha, the sutras, the suttas, the 3 baskets, the Triptaka, the Abhidharma, the Vinaya, the sutras, in short, the Buddhist scriptures, the word of, the teachings of the Buddha. Dharmas with a small d, that book of nature, are the phenomenal world, the stars, the moon, the tides, the oceans, fish and seaweed, the clouds, the birds, the sky, the hills, valleys, and mountains, the bears, the deer, the bugs, the worms, sand, rock, and mud, that second law of thermodynamics. E equals mc squared. And here, this is all available to us. Saved or damned, we can read the Dharma with a capital D in the real-world phenomena of the Dharma with a small d. Yes, we can forget that we're awakened, but it takes no huge leap to know that we are connected intimately with that flea, all turtles all the way down. Jonathan Swift knew that. So naturalists observe a flea hath smaller fleas that on him prey, and those have smaller yet to bite him, and so on, ad infinitum. There is always a point at which we need to stop and ask whether you can legitimately find parallels between religious texts and the natural world. Just what could the Buddha have seen? Could we look to Dogen for intimations of the world of science? Am I, ascribing scientific insights to men who had other, deeper agendas? The Italian physicist and writer Carlo Rovelli makes the claim that 2,500 years ago the Greek philosopher Democritus, simply sitting down and looking at the world around him, created a revolution that continues to this day, that all matter of the universe consists of atoms, that all of it is interconnected. Not a lucky guess, but a carefully reasoned theory. Rovelli sees this as leading directly from Democritus through Newton and Einstein and on up to the notion of quantum gravity. If an ancient Greek could see this, then how much more an ancient Indian sitting down and looking within? The parallels are wider. Buddhists understand each of us as consisting of skandhas, of heaps. 2,500 years of looking carefully at our own human minds, a feat no less impressive than that of Democritus and atomic theory. The Heart Sutra lays out these heaps, these skandhas, form, sensations, perceptions, formations, consciousness. And we can now see that the human individual is not a single unitary soul, but an assemblage, a way of organizing minds that leads to the fiction of unity, an observation both of the Buddha and of the Scottish philosopher David Hume, who, try as he would, could not find that unity when he turned his gaze within. But more, it's so much more. We are, each of us, physically walking colonies with as many bacteria and viruses in us as cells that we might naively call our own. And those very cells are the result of a symbiosis of different single-cell organisms, with our mitochondria as the remnants of independent cells. So we see the Dharma writ large in a moth fluttering by in the summer lamplight, in the caterpillar eating into the summer's tomato plants. It's there if we only open our eyes, like the Buddha, like Democritus, like Hume. And I take comfort in a future world, where even if Buddhists were no longer, even if all of those Buddhist texts, those emails, those blog postings, YouTube videos, had ceased to be, where in short, even if there was no Buddhism, no teachers, no priests, no practitioners, no trace of the Dharma, in that world, maybe not immediately, maybe haltingly, someone somewhere would open their eyes, look around and say, life can be pretty shitty, and maybe there's a way to deal with that. And she'd sit down and quietly figure out just how to live life, just how to sit down, shut up, and pay attention. And she'd see through this because, quite frankly, it's all baked into the world around us. The Dharma, small d and capital D, is all there in the universe itself. The vast interconnections, the simple notion of cause and effect, lying out in plain sight, waiting to be found. Just this. Just sit down, shut up, pay attention. Thank you.